It's the boy, the one and only MPKH. Filtered and unfiltered, whatever you want to call me, I am here. And I have got a special video for you. SummerSlam is on the way, and we have seen some memorable SummerSlam moments, matches, and this is the time where people can go out in the sun, go to the beach, eat ice cream, chop it up with friends, except if you live in South Africa because we still got winter. But anywho, I thought I'd take the time out of my day to give you guys a special video. I'm MPKH, and these are the 10 best SummerSlam matches of all time. Number 10, John Cena versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013. The WWE champion at the time, John Cena, was given the green light by WWE management to pick his own opponent for SummerSlam. And who did he pick, you may ask? The leader of the Yes movement, Daniel Bryan. However, this decision didn't sit well with upper management, including one Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who took every opportunity that he had to belittle Daniel Bryan and say that he was never going to be the guy of WWE. In various promo battles, the leader of the Yes movement would go on to mention that he was the real wrestler out of the two and didn't want to acknowledge John Cena as a wrestler. And he even went on to say that this was just another match for Cena because he's been the guy that runs the place for over a decade. But to Daniel Bryan, this was the biggest match of his life because it would be the accomplishment of a lifetime if he had won the WWE Championship. And to add more fuel to the fire, Triple H was announced as the special guest referee for this match, which I will talk about later on. This was the classic trope of underdog versus big time player. The big time player being John Cena and the underdog being Daniel Bryan. And who doesn't love an underdog, you may ask? Well, almost everybody that wants to see the guy that's run the place for so long be defeated. And however, John Cena did suffer a tricep injury, which led to him tearing his tricep, which caused his elbow to fill with fluid and swell to an uncomfortable size. The match itself was very entertaining. Everyone was on the edge of their seats, whether you were at home or live in attendance. Cena didn't feel as dominant as he would be in most of his matches, and it seemed like Bryan had an answer for every single move that Cena had to offer. But there were even some submission moves that were being used by both men. Bryan would win the match by hitting his new finisher, the running knee, for the 1-2-3 to become the newly crowned WWE champion. In defeat, the leader of the C Nation himself had to shake Daniel Bryan's hand and be written off TV for a while to nurse his injury, which this would have sparked the new era up until the Apex Predator had to cash in his Money in the Bank contract on a weekend Daniel Bryan, thanks to the help of the King of Kings, who had hit the new WWE champion with the pedigree and told the ring announcer to ring the bell, count 1, 2, 3, to make Randy Orton the new WWE champion to close out SummerSlam 2013. Number 9, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, SummerSlam 2014. Brock Lesnar's 2014 had been an incredible run as he decimated the Big Show in Royal Rumble 2014 and even defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 to become the one in 21-1, which led to the most shocking moment in wrestling history. He even challenged John Cena for the World Championship that Cena had won at Money in the Bank previously. The match will be remembered as a glorified squash match because who would have thought John Cena would be squashed by an opponent? Not me. Because earlier in the match, Brock Lesnar had proceeded to give the leader of the C Nation an F5, but Cena had kicked out. Brock even later on went on to give Cena 16 German suplexes. Yes, you heard me right. 16 German suplexes. That was officially known as the birth of Suplex City. Every time John Cena would try and gain momentum, Brock had an answer and just shut it down completely. And after John Cena had given Brock Lesnar an attitude adjustment, Brock Lesnar will proceed to do a sit-up Undertaker style. John Cena had put the Beast Incarnate in the STF, but Brock Lesnar got out of it and proceeded to give John Cena another F5 during the match to become the newly crowned WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which left the entire crowd speechless, both in live attendance and at home, including yours truly, which sparked the end of Super Cena. Number 8, Undertaker versus Edge, SummerSlam 2008. Ordinary singles match would spark the end of a year-long rivalry between The Undertaker and Edge. The rivalry had started back in 2007 when Edge cashed in his Money in the Bank contract on a weekend dead man to become the new World Heavyweight Champion, which led to months of Edge running SmackDown with help of Vicky Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, and some Edge heads in Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, which would even keep the dead man down, but failed to do so when Undertaker got his revenge to become world champion again at WrestleMania 24. However, Vicky Guerrero did reinstate The Undertaker after him losing the World Heavyweight Championship in a TLC match back in 2008, with the stipulation being if Undertaker lost, he would be fired from WWE completely. The reason why Vicky had hired The Undertaker back was because she recently discovered that the Rated R superstar was having an affair with Alicia Fox and proceeded to make the match type a Hell in a Cell. Various weapons would be brought into play. Tables, ladders, chairs, steel steps, you name it, it was there. And thanks to Edge's experience in TLC matches, he would dominate portions of the match where he would proceed to spear Undertaker through the cell cage wall. He would even spear Undertaker through the announce table and would even go for a concerto. However, Undertaker would say, hell nah, I ain't letting you do that. The Demon of Death Valley would chokeslam the Ultimate Opportunist through 2 tables from the top rope. He would even go on to use Edge's own move, the spear, against him throughout the match, and Taker would even think about doing the concerto but decided not to and just end the match with a tombstone to be the victor of the match, thus signifying the end of a year-long rivalry. Post-match, he even proceeded to chokeslam Edge through the ladder through the bottom of the ring and even burn him in the pits of hell. Rest in peace, Edge. Number 7, AJ Styles versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2016. Who would have thought that in the year 2016, AJ Styles, who had run TNA for 11 years and then would even go on to showcase his talents in Japan by running the Bullet Club, becoming an IWGP champion twice, might I add, and even challenged John Cena twice in the same year. I wouldn't even imagine that was possible. So AJ Styles came off a victory by defeating John Cena at Money in the Bank thanks to help of his former Bullet Club brethren Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Cena would even get the upper hand on Styles and Gallows and Anderson thanks to the help of one Enzo Amore and Big Cass at Battleground. Now we get to the match. The crowd was red hot cheering for AJ Styles because he was on the run of his life when he entered WWE and had been on top for 5 to 6 months. I wouldn't have dreamed that was even possible, because both men were throwing everything that they had at each other. John Cena would even proceed to do a super attitude adjustment from the top rope, but that was not enough to put down the Phenomenal One. During the match, the Phenomenal One would hit the Styles Clash on the leader of the C Nation and later on would proceed to do a Phenomenal Forearm to be victorious in the match. Thus, even John Cena would go on to Hollywood and AJ Styles would continue his red hot run in WWE, even by winning the WWE Championship a month after he had defeated John Cena clean at the biggest event of the summer. Number 6, The Rock versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2002. Back in 2002, Brock Lesnar had burst onto the scene alongside Paul Heyman as he was hyped up to be the next big thing in WWE. And did he prove himself worthy in his rookie years of that title by demolishing and dominating the entire Monday Night Raw locker room, and even came fresh off of a King of the Ring victory in 2002 against Rob Van Dam? And how would Brock Lesnar go on to prove himself as the next big thing for WWE? By going up against Attitude Era's biggest star alongside Stone Cold Steve Austin and the most electrifying man in all of sports entertainment, The Rock himself. However, there wasn't really much storyline to this match because there was mainly training videos for each wrestler, and also WWE were in a bit of a pickle because The Rock was about to leave for Hollywood at the time and they needed an active champion. So they decided, let's see what our young rookie can do up against our biggest star to ever grace the sport. The Rock went into this match with broken ribs, rushing down to the ring very quickly, but Brock Lesnar had quickly shut him down. Even Paul Heyman had a role in this match as he would interfere whenever The Rock was going to gain some offense on his client. But The Rock wouldn't be stopped because he even gained some momentum himself. However, Brock Lesnar would end the match with an F5 for the 1-2-3, becoming the youngest WWE champion in history by defeating The Rock clean. Number 5, Edge and Christian versus the Dudleys versus the Hardy Boys. TLC 2000 at SummerSlam. SummerSlam 2000 is remembered for the inaugural TLC match that 3 of the top tag teams of all time, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, and the Hardys, had. Plus, they needed something to do to top off their epic WrestleMania 16 clash. And what better than a TLC match? The very first TLC match, might I add. Each team had showcased their talents in making tag team wrestling boom in the 2000s as they made use of the opportunities of each weapon that they had. Even there were some crash and burn spots, including one charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy, failing to hit a swanton bomb on Bubba Ray Dudley, thus causing him to land on 2 tables. Bubba Ray Dudley would, however, get his karma as he was pushed off of the ladder through 4 tables on the outside. Lita had played some sort of a role in this match as she had tried to stop Edge and Christian from taking those tag titles home, but her efforts were proven useless as Edge would spear her outside of the ring. Jeff and Devon were on the top, hanging on to the belts, but Edge had moved the ladder underneath from both of them, causing both men to fall to the mat. And that match would end with Edge and Christian capitalizing and taking the tag titles for the win, thus cementing each team's legacy as WWE's best tag teams of all time. Number 4, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, SummerSlam 1991. It was the excellence of execution versus perfection. However, there was one slight problem with this match. Mr. Perfect was working with an injured back, and Bret Hart was still competing in tag team action alongside longtime tag team partner, the late great Jim the Anvil Neidhart. God rest your soul. This would, however, change for Bret Hart because this was the match where the crowd and Vince McMahon started to see some potential in Bret Hart as he would break out into singles action later in his career. This showcased each man's talent as this was a very even match and a great technical wrestling match overall, and this even showed Bret Hart being the first man to kick out of the perfect plex. No man has ever done that. The crowd was shocked. Even Mr. Perfect himself was shocked. Mr. Perfect would go for a leg drop. However, the excellence of execution countered it and turned it into the sharpshooter, which caused Perfect to submit and led to Bret Hart winning his first Intercontinental Championship. And great things came for the Hitman himself. Number 3, Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, SummerSlam 2005. The late great Eddie Guerrero had revealed to Dominic Mysterio that he was Dominic's biological father, not Rey, which even caused him to pursue custody of Dominic, but the master of the 619 had denied him that request. So both men had to settle it one way. In a court case? No, this is wrestling we're talking about here. They had to gain custody over Dominic in a ladder match. Yes, you heard that right. They had to gain custody over a child in a ladder match. You can't make that up. Both men had walked into the arena and gave Dominic a little bit of a pep talk before the match had commenced. And this match proved that these two can do anything because the chemistry was absolutely incredible. We see Rey performing a springboard dropkick on Latino Heat and a sunset flip from Eddie onto Rey off of the ladder. Even Dominic Mysterio is just wanting this match to end because he wants to go home and not be a part of this mess. And he gets his wish thanks to Vicky Guerrero stopping Eddie Guerrero in his tracks, which saw the opportunity that Rey had to get the papers and have full-on custody over Dominic Mysterio for the years to come. Number 2, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at SummerSlam 1994. This is the culmination of a year-long storyline as it saw Owen Hart wanting to break away from his brother's shadow. The Hitman had become a success, and even Owen wanted it himself, but he didn't want to be alongside Bret Hart anymore. These two had possibly one of the greatest intro matches in WrestleMania history and needed to top it off to end their feud at SummerSlam 1994. Before the match began, Owen Hart decided to attack the excellence of execution, but Bret would win the exchanges with an atomic drop and a clothesline. Both men had their opportunities of trying to escape, but they had failed to do so due to grabbing each man to remain inside because one of them needed to be victorious and the other had to be a loser in this match. Owen would perform a sharpshooter on his brother and scream that he's going to break his legs if he doesn't give up. However, the Hitman shows us why he was given the nickname The Excellence of Execution by performing a sharpshooter of his own. However, Owen Hart didn't have it in him to give up. Both men made their way to the cage by trying to escape. However, Bret Hart had slammed Owen's head into the cage, which caused Owen to collapse, and his feet would get caught in the cage, thus leaving him hanging. And then the Hitman would seize the opportunity by escaping the cage with both feet hitting the floor in order to win the match and ending the brother versus brother rivalry that went on for so damn long. Just before I get to the number 1 match of SummerSlam history, I just want to give out quick honorable mentions to some matches that were unable to make the list. These matches were good, but they couldn't make it on the list because of the match quality of the matches that I mentioned. The honorable mentions are CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, the Best versus the Beast at SummerSlam 2013, CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy at SummerSlam 2009 in a TLC match for the World Heavyweight Championship, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam 1995 in a ladder match, Kurt Angle versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF Championship at SummerSlam 2001, Christian versus Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam 2011 in a street fight, and last but definitely not least, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2003 for the undisputed WWE Championship at SummerSlam 2003. Number 1, Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog at SummerSlam 1992 for the Intercontinental Championship. Bret Hart and the British Bulldog were close friends and family by marriage. Bret's sister and British Bulldog's wife, Deanna, would become a centerpiece in the feud. SummerSlam was held in the UK, where the British Bulldog would receive a hero's welcome. The United Kingdom crowd were on the side of the British Bulldog as they wanted to see one of their own win a championship in their home country. And this made Bret Hart the transition into the heel role as he was being booed by the crowd and cheering for the British Bulldog, even though he had started the match as a babyface. Both men would target each other's areas throughout the entire match. Bulldog would target Bret's arm, and Bret would target the back of the Bulldog early in the match. This match had everything you would have expected from technical wrestlers in the Hitman and the British Bulldog, with counters, reversals, submission moves, power slams, and Irish whips. Towards the end of the match, Bret Hart was going for a sunset flip. However, the Bulldog had countered into an inside cradle pin for the victory to become the newly crowned Intercontinental Champion. And at the end of the match, Diana enters the ring and raises both her brother, the Hitman Bret Hart, and her husband, the British Bulldog's victory to end SummerSlam 1992. And that's it for me today, guys. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and tap on the bell icon to be notified on when Stomp Wrestling posts their next video, whether it's solo, whether it's a duo, trio, or all of us together. And also, let me know in the comments what your 10 best SummerSlam matches of all time are and what your personal favorite SummerSlam match is. Also, don't forget to check out Stomp Wrestling on our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Our links will be in the description below so that you guys can stay in touch with Stomp Wrestling everywhere and anywhere you go. Also, be sure to check out the Stomp Wrestling Boyz' personal social media platforms and give them a follow on every single platform that they're on, including yours truly. And there's going to be some more videos that are coming out in recent days. But until then, I will see you guys later. Peace!